I can get you more credits.
I can bring you in warm, or I can bring you in cold.
You are listening to Studio MacGyver's Dragon Ball and Video Game Podcast.
What is going down? What is going down? It is your boy, Studio MacGyver, and you are listening to Studio MacGyver's Dragon Ball and Video Game Podcast. Today, guys, I have a guest. He was here not too long ago on the podcast before, but I'd like to welcome him back. He goes by the name of DIG. I call him DIG-247. How are you doing today, sir?
Man, I'm doing fantastic. I'm excited for this episode, man. I am.
This episode, he's excited for, guys, is going to be a Star Wars extravaganza, man. I told you guys last week that I was gearing up for this podcast. I couldn't wait. The anticipation was killing me slowly. Newcomers, I want to welcome you to the podcast. If you're new to this podcast, if you're into nerd culture, if you're into anime, if you're into games, then you've come to the right place. We talk about all those things and everything in between here on the show. And today we're going to be talking about Star Wars, man. There's a lot of stuff going on in this Star Wars universe right now. You got the video game that just dropped, Fallen Order. You got the Disney Channel that just came out with the Mandalorian. Just so many great things to be thankful for if you're a Star Wars fan. And I'm a brand new Star Wars fan. I mean, I'm just keeping it real. I have to say, it's got me in a headlock, so to speak, as how Dig would word it. But yeah, man, I'm in there. I'm in the universe. I mean, God damn it, man. I cannot believe I've been missing out this long on this property. You know what I'm saying? I just can't believe it.
What was the first step? What?
I mean, the first step, man, had to be the Mandalorian. Got me curious. That's what really got me curious when I heard about that, because as a guy who was just casually watching Star Wars here and there, one thing I did gravitate to was the Mandalorians or Jango Fett, Boba Fett, those characters, the bounty hunting, all of that type of stuff. That's what kind of, got me. That's really one of the only characters. I mean, you know about the main characters, you know about Luke Skywalker and that type of stuff, right? Yeah. But and Vader and stuff. But that's all I really knew, up to that point. I saw the Star Wars movies, but it was years ago, and I did enjoy them. But, I don't know. I just, for whatever reason, wasn't intrigued enough to know more at that time. But when they announced that, The Mandalorian, I kind of, my antennas kind of went up, and then I was like, well, let's see what this is. Let's see this is going on here. And then when the Star Wars game came out, I started digging into like the lore, because listeners, you guys who know me know that I'm a sucker when it comes to lore and anything. I mean, you could be talking about a piece of shit, and if it had lore to it, hey, I want to find out where the boo came from. You know what I'm saying? But the world of Star Wars, man, really now, as I'm sitting here talking to you guys now, I can honestly say that I feel like I've had an awakening of some sort. I don't know. I mean, it's fabulous. It's fantastic. I mean, I'll run out of words, but it's a great thing.
Well, one
man.
of the things that was interesting to me when you was talking to me about it, one of the connections that I hadn't even made, your favorite Dragon Ball Z, with the Saiyans and the Mandalorians, the warrior race type thing that they had going on that was very similar. I remember you mentioned that. Like, I hadn't even thought about it. And it's funny because as we've both kind of dug deeper, that parallel actually it holds some base to it. You know what I mean? Like, they both seeking to be stronger. That's why the Mandalorians always adapting their armor. Even when you talk about how they started, like, they're a warrior people. And they're respected throughout the galaxy for that. It was crazy to think about those connections. But yeah, man.
Yeah, that's a good point you made. When you line them up together, I mean, they have a lot of similarities, with outer space and some of the things. I mean, it's not as deep and fleshed out as Star Wars is, right. But yeah, the Saiyans, the Mandalorians kind of remind me of the Saiyans in a sense, a warrior race of people. They're not all the way, but you can definitely see the comparison. You can definitely understand what I was saying when I was saying that. But yeah, that's what got me in there, man, at first. And then as I started to take off the layers and peel back the layers, man, I started seeing more and more, you know, things that I really resonated with. And then, you know, I went back and watched some of the Star Wars movies again. And man, it felt like I was watching it for the first time. I mean, I was missing stuff. Like I said before, you know, I watched them, you know, years past, but maybe I just wasn't paying attention fully, or I don't know what it was.
I think it
but
was
this time around,
similar to me
it's
too.
crazy.
Now you done got, you know, some of your research done and on the backstory. So now when you're watching the movies, it's like it's kind of filling in the blanks. Cause you remember I was telling you what kind of got me. Like I watched the movies, you know, when I was younger. I had some friends that were really into it, but to me it was just something cool. Like you said, you know, we in all these other I guess action genres as far as anime and Marvel or whatever you want to call it, sci-fi. But for me, it was after Endgame this year. When Endgame came out, and then I was thinking about the fact that Star Wars had their the third movie coming out in December. I just felt like a lot of these, I guess, arcs and different stories were kind of coming to an end. And so that kind of made me dig further into Star Wars. And I remember like 3 days straight, I was just looking at different things like, okay, where did the Jedi come from? When did they split into the Sith? How does that narrative fit into the other stories? You know, they talk about the balance in the Force and, you know, even Anakin, Vader, you know, bringing balance to it. Because, you know, some people said it was Luke Skywalker. But no, if you dig into the lore, it was Anakin that did bring the balance back to the Force as he was meant to.
A lot of crazy shit.
And then, yeah, like you said, Mandalorian, you know, trying to figure out where that fit into the whole picture. Maybe that's a good way for us to start talking about these episodes, man.
Well, The Mandalorian, you know, is 2 episodes out now. We got blessed because Disney Plus came out on a Tuesday, so they let us have one there. And then we got another one on Friday, which is the usual scheduled date of the show. So every Friday is, for those who haven't seen it. I don't want to necessarily spoil it, but man, I don't know how I can talk about this, you know, without saying something, without, you know, it's not really spoiling it, because if you guys don't have Disney Plus, which supposedly I checked the other day, like it's millions of people, man, download it. Like I don't know the exact number, but so many people got it. Everybody that I know for the most part has it, because there's something on there for everybody. But the first 2 episodes, I knew the shit was gonna be tight. Let me just say that first. I knew that this dude was gonna be fucking wet. And those to the new listeners, wet is a term I created. It's spelled W-E-T-T, and it means amazing and highly skilled. Every time I say that word, I have to let my listeners know what it means, because they don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. Some of these guys. So, but yes, he is definitely a warrior. Like I said, it's got rave reviews up to this point. They have something here. They really have something here with the show, man. I mean, the basic premise of it is a bounty hunter who are, you know, pretty much, you know, doing his thing out here in these Star Wars streets, and come across, you know, a bounty, which was kind of
Let's hear the spoiler warning right here. Like, if you really don't want any, because when you ask me some questions, I'm going in. So this is the spoiler warning for anybody who wants to take time, go watch and come back and press play. But go ahead, let's tell them about it.
I mean, it's just the premise of it is just a guy who, he's a bounty hunter, he's a warrior, he's trying to make money like everybody else is trying to make money out here in these times, and he comes upon an assignment that, you know, is a little suspect, you know, it's questionable, and he takes on that assignment, and, you know, what he finds is, you know, there's not even a race for it, technically, you know what I mean? Just think of Yoda, you know, you know,
Baby Yoda.
When you think of Yoda,
not
everybody
Yoda,
calls him,
but Baby Yoda.
Yeah, it's not actually Yoda, but it's the same race, and he's a baby. And those guys live hundreds of years.
Yoda made it to 900 something, if that tells us anything.
You know what I mean? So then this baby's like 50 years old. So, but apparently this baby has the power of the Force. And that's what, you know, I think right now, at least right now, this is what the whole premise of the story is stemming around, because there's people who want him dead. There's people who want him alive. And you get thrust into this tug of war type of game right now. What it looks like, you know, people are after this Yoda, this baby Yoda, for a number of different reasons, for their own, you know, reasons that we still don't know about. Yeah. And that's where the shit gets interesting, because now it's still early on, so we don't really know everything. So technically, you can't even really spoil the story. It's just this is really the beginning of it, and there's still a lot of characters in the show that haven't been revealed that we've seen on the trailers. So 2 episodes in, that's the basic premise of the story. There's a lot more to it. We're going to dive into it a little bit, and I want to kind of hear, your retrospect, how you felt about, the first 2 episodes from your perspective.
Okay. So like the first one, well, first of all, I feel like I'd have to start with this latest trilogy that's coming out, the one that's going to be ending here. I don't know, even I guess Return of the Jedi. Not even Return. Okay. What is it? Was that what it's called?
It's
Force Awakens,
Rise
of Skywalker, Force Awakens, all that type of stuff. So these movies, I was very disappointed with. It's not so much structurally. I mean, you said you watched them here recently, and they were good as far as how they were put together. But it was the things that happened that I didn't like. And honestly, I felt like this last movie was, well, actually, the second movie was like the last hurrah. And I think a lot of people were feeling that way. I mean, obviously, you see a lot of the stuff that's been going on online. The fact that Finn didn't end up with a lightsaber. End up a Jedi, technically. The fact that Rey was just so amazing with next to no training. And that's where I feel like it kind of disrespected the lore in that sense. But I was waiting to see what they would do next. And then I heard about The Mandalorian, which I hadn't really been following. And actually, you're the one who really pointed it out. And I started watching some trailers and things. And a lot of people were looking at The Mandalorian like this is the last hope for Star Wars, so to speak, especially after those movies. Solo, that didn't do particularly well. A lot of people like Rogue One, that was okay. But The Mandalorian, obviously stepping away from the Jedi, was given a different perspective than I guess we're used to in the movies, where it's so Jedi heavy. And to see it well executed was awesome. And then I remember when, people were giving some of the early reviews, and I guess the director and producers and things were talking about it. They were saying it's like a samurai shogun movie meets cowboy western meets Star Wars or space. And I mean, I love the samurai deal, cowboys a certain extent. So I was like, I guess I'm a shoe in for this one. And then obviously the trailer, you see him doing some cool things. And we even talked about it, me and Studio Mac, and we was like, one thing that I like is a character that I guess like a Vegeta, that will take you out if he has to. And I felt like this character, I wanted to kind of see where he fell in that spectrum. And that's where obviously episode 1, it started with a bang, The Mandalorian. Like, I mean, he walks into the bar, they're messing with the guy. A fight ensues, and this, I literally was like loving it, like hands in the air, sitting there watching it by myself when he takes out the guys in the bar, and then his bounty is sitting at the table like, oh, is that Puck for me? Is that me? Like, he doesn't even say anything, he just looks at him like, yes sir, I'm here for you. I loved it. And then
he's definitely savage.
Yeah, man. And that was the thing. Like, is it the right amount? Because we know he's pretty much going to be the hero here. I think everybody kind of got that feeling, but how much so? And I feel like to see that was amazing. And then obviously, what happens?
Fucking weapons.
That? Yeah, the weapons, the guns.
Got a lot of weapons, man.
Clearly knows how to handle himself. I mean, but the whole way it was set up, especially for it to be a show. I mean, from the jump, they're showing you the space creatures, they're showing you the aliens, they're showing you the spaceship. I feel like it was all very well acted. He goes, drops off the bounties, obviously. That's where, like you were saying, he finds out he gets another bounty. Only on this one, there's no Puck, which is basically like a bounty contract. And so he goes to see the guy, and they're sitting there, talking about what he wants him to do. And this is where it got interesting because, one guy wants him alive, the other one wants him dead. So it's kind of like, what is this? And then, like you said, they even tell him, hey, he's 50 years old. So ain't nobody thinking about a baby when you go find something that's 50 years old. But from there, I feel like it was hitting on all the right cylinders, so to speak. He goes to the planet. I guess that's where Nick Nolte's character come in. I forgot what his name was exactly, but I mean, that character was amazing. Wait, I
Yeah,
think
he
I skipped
was.
I skipped something on. I think it's important because that scene where he got the metal that he used for his armor, I think that was an important scene because it shows not only something that's important to Mandalorian lore, but also it gives the character that sense of progression as this goes on, and they did it instantly. And one of the things that I'm big about in anything I watch really is the
I
pacing.
know what you're about to say. Yep.
On top of like all the other story elements, I really pay attention to that stuff. So I feel like, you know, it definitely nailed it on that. I feel like I'm just walking through the show now, but I guess we
Yeah.
just kind of talk about what we're seeing as we go. But so yeah, he gets his medal, he gets a new shoulder pad, he goes to the planet, meets Nick Nolte's character, very well done character. Oh, and this is a good point I think to start at that you really highlighted to me. You know, the fact that he got off that ship and those creatures attacked him and he almost lost his life that quick.
Yeah.
It really humanized the character. Like he can be touched, so to speak.
Yes. He's not unbreakable.
Right.
So that there's layers. That's what I consider, part of that. And I think there's more to come when it comes to layers around this character because he's when you're a bounty hunter, like the guy said. I mean, it's a very complicated, it's a profession.
Right.
That's why this guy he didn't get to where he's at right now from being 100% nice. You know what I mean? And doing everything 100%, the Jedi way, if you will, or whatever. I'm sure he's made some decisions and done some things that, maybe he's not necessarily proud of, but at the same time he had to do and he's willing to do, going forward. And that's the type of thing that I like. That's the type of depth
Decisive.
that, I see unfolding with this character. You know what I mean? In my opinion. I like savagery. I mean, that's what he definitely is. I mean, he even stated that part of their religion is, to never be without their weapons.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that's part of their religion. So his
That's
weapons
serious.
is another character to me. They're like another character in the show to me. And I'm always been a sucker for, trinkets, characters with, all kind of different gadgets and different kind of weapons, you know what I'm saying, that they need to take out there with them. Like I said, the Jedis have their sabers, but, the bounty hunters have their toys too. And his gun, I mean, that fucking rifle, I mean, whatever you want to call it, that shit is crazy.
It was dusting him, right?
Man, I mean,
nothing
what kind of
remained
bullets were those?
when he hit you?
Like, I don't even know.
That's a good question. We're going to have to look into that after this because, I mean, there
You
was
get
nothing
touched,
left when he hit
you're
you with
done.
that.
You know what I mean? You're done. And then he's got electricity on the tip of it. I mean, he's got all kinds of shit. And then he's like a a gunslinger with his handgun.
And see, that's important too. And I feel like I'm gonna be all over the place this episode, but I'm gonna try to keep it concise. But the Mandalorians, even why they developed their armor the way they did, and I found this out of curiosity from seeing all this, is because they fought the Jedi. Like that was one of their greatest prey, so to speak. And so one of the main things with the Jedi, with the lightsaber and the Force, I mean, they're coming at you. They can do all types of things. That's why if you look at, the wrist weapon, their stuff is bound to their body, so it can't be pulled off. That's why they have so many gadgets, so that they can overwhelm the Jedi senses. That's why their armor, that metal, is so important because that's lightsaber resistant. Not
that's crucial.
What's the word? Not and it doesn't completely negate the lightsaber. It's just resistant to the lightsaber. So things like that come into play in how these Mandalorians develop themselves. And even, I know a lot of people have to have noticed by now, but the fact that the Mandalorian armor so closely resembles the Stormtrooper armor is because they took their design coming from a war that they had with the Mandalorians where they was getting handled. So they, after they, brought the Jedi in and eventually won the war, they basically started modeling their armor after the Mandalorians and everything they liked. So, I mean, they are those guys. Oh, and that's another thing. The Mandalorians as a group, they are one of the only ones that can give a Sith problems. Like the Sith actually had to make some arrangements when they was going to fight with those Mandalorians, and I think that just speaks to how powerful they were.
Exactly.
And that's why
I'm trying to figure out. Well, his chest piece, his chest plate,
right?
Like when it got fucked up really bad or whatever, and part of the show, it kind of like he peeled it back, and it's a lot of fucking technology, behind that. There's a lot of like
too.
There's a lot of look like computer chips and different parts and pieces and stuff. Like, man, I didn't know that. I thought it was just a piece of some type of armor, but no, it was more complicated than that. And I thought that was kind of cool as well. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
Also, like his ship, the Razor Crest, like that is, I love that fucking ship, man. I mean, I love how it looks, design. They've always had some dope ass ships, like the little smaller ships, the ships that
Definitely.
some of the characters have, man. They fly with, man. That shit is dope. The Razor Crest, I really like the ship, and like I said, man, I'm looking forward to, what's gonna happen in the next 6 episodes. Because I mean, if I had to give this show a grade, like right now, it's a 9 out of 10, and the only reason why it's a fucking 10. I mean, it's a 9 is because, honestly, it's because 0.5 of that is the fucking, the length, and the other 0.5 is the fact that, what am I trying to say? Damn, I just lost my fucking train of thought. That's the main, but the time is the main thing for me. You know what I mean? The time, because, I mean, the first episode is like 37 minutes, and then the second episode is only 32 minutes. So I'm like, yo, what's going on here? And most people that you hear talk about the show say the same thing. They like, yo, I want it to be longer. What at least happened to 45 minutes?
I feel like that second episode needed at least 10 more minutes.
Man,
Flat
I
out.
would
I'll say it straight out. It needed at least 10 more minutes, in my opinion. So I definitely agree with you there. Even like the musical score. I remember we talked about that. Some people weren't too happy about that. I thought it was all right too.
I love the music. And some people, I was listening, most people love the music, but there was this guy who, I don't remember his fucking name, but he was talking mad Cash Money shit about the music. He was saying that he basically, his words were like, the music was trash.
I think that's,
and I was
saying
like,
too much.
what?
Too much.
And I was like, man, they needed to make this music slightly different, in my opinion, because it's not about Jedi. It's not about, it's its own thing in the universe. So, I mean, it's trying to carve its own slice out of this universe. And I think that's what it needed, in my perfect opinion. I mean, I really enjoyed the music. Even if I wasn't crazy about the music, I feel that I don't have an issue with the changing of the music per se, because you were talking about a brand new character, out here. And it needs to be its own thing, man.
Definitely.
So whoever that guy was, I don't know if he's smoking sherm, he's drinking sake. Something's going on, man, with his taste. I mean, I don't like to talk about people's opinions, but all the time. But man,
I think that was unfair totally on this one.
Yeah, that was unfair for sure, man.
I mean, maybe,
but like I said, I don't even know this guy.
People may have been expecting, like George Lucas did it, the full opera orchestra, he had for the soundtrack, not particularly done the way he had done it. Maybe they wanted that. I don't know. But I enjoyed it as well.
I really enjoyed the music. And I'm a music guy. Like I
actually think the music was even used very, very well. Like the scenes where he was interacting with the baby Yoda. I'm just gonna keep calling him that for this until we actually come up with a name. But yeah, Baby Yoda, because we mentioned that there were some scenes where there wasn't much dialogue, and it was done through watching what was on screen, and yes, the music, which is so important to the feel of these movies. Speaking of Baby Yoda, I think there is something I want to touch on there. That scene where he actually finally does find him at that bandit camp. Okay. And he runs into the other robot from the, I guess from the same bounty hunter guild as he is, that had the contract as well.
IG-11, I think.
Was that his name? I don't remember his name, but
I think it was IG-11, yeah. I want to say.
So that robot, yeah. I mean, that robot was fire, right?
Yeah, he was doing his thing. He was definitely doing his thing, man. But his programming was a little fucked up because, he was sent there to kill the baby.
And I think that's an important piece too, because it's like, was that the same guy putting out the contract? Was it somebody else trying to get the Baby Yoda? We don't know yet. So
very questionable.
It could be more people. And then I think even speaking to the importance of the baby, that last scene, when that, they find out that, hold up, this is our target. Hold up, it's 50 years old, and hold up, it's a baby. The ball that it was in, kind of like a crib, was floating. And, that's where they ended the first episode. So a lot of people were wondering right then, was this baby force sensitive? And it's funny to me that by the second episode, you find out, yes, but not because that ball was floating. Like, that ball was definitely floating because of some type of machine that they had. because if you're
Right.
watching the second one, he was moving it around with his wrist. So that wasn't the baby
Right.
levitating the ball. But the baby dang sure did levitate that dinosaur thing at the end.
Now here's something that I find interesting that you probably would know more than I would, because you're more, like I said, I'm just now getting into the Star Wars stuff, man. But my timelines are a little sketchy sometimes. But it was almost as if, I call him Mando because that's what he's called. You know, he doesn't have a name yet. So, but anyway,
Yeah, let's roll with that.
it's almost like he didn't know what fucking the Force was, because
Right.
the baby was trying to touch him and reach out to him when he was cut to try to heal him, but he kept picking the baby back up, putting him back. When the baby started helping him, when he got into it with that fucking animal creature, and the animal started to float because of the baby Yoda helping him, he didn't know what that was. Like, it's almost
No
like he
idea.
doesn't know the Force, has no idea about the Force.
And that's
so.
And that's
You know,
good
the
too.
story, yeah, because it takes place, like they say, on the outer rim, so like on the outer skirts of the galaxy. So, you know, it might make a little sense that these guys don't know necessarily about, you know, Jedis aren't really known out here. But
Right.
then I was wondering, like, well, damn, you know, there's somebody knows that about this Force thing, because they're after him, I think, for that reason.
I definitely. So
You know what I mean? So that's
when I
elaborate
look
on
at
that,
it-
I guess.
Okay, so one thing that I found is a tip for myself that I would share with others that are trying to learn more about this, is to really understand the time periods, and not so much like knowing your history, what year it happened, but know kind of the sequence that the movies are in, because like as far as episode 1 through 3, 4 through 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So once you look at it like that, and then you start to dig deeper and you learn about some of the other wars, you start to get the events, the important events together. So
Right.
this movie, to my knowledge, is 5 years after the fall of the Empire, right? So this is
Okay.
after the stuff with Luke, and when his dad killed Palpatine and the Ewoks, right? But before these last 3 movies. So that kind of gives you the
Okay.
window we're in. So why is this important? Because
Okay.
if you go to the first 3 movies, episode 1 through 3, you know, that had Darth Maul and obviously Anakin's fall, that was leading up to Order 66, right? Like episode 3 ends with Order 66 being issued. And when Order 66 was issued, that's when Jedi were essentially eradicated and hunted to
Right.
extinction. So prior to that, you know, everybody would have known who the Jedi were. They would have seen
Right.
them. They would have heard of their exploits. They would have been out here. Versus now, you're
Right.
talking, you know, those other 3 movies done happened, and now you're entering these last 3. You know, people haven't seen Jedi like that at this point, or didn't know the
Right.
Force and stuff like that. So that's why I believe that when they saw that, you know, him using the power, they had no idea what that was. And yes, they're out
Right.
there on like the outer rim, the outskirts. So there's not many Jedi out there and dealing with the Empire like that at all. So I think that was
Right.
definitely an interesting touch for the whole show. And another interesting touch that I thought about was, after that baby used his powers, did you think about how long he was asleep? Like, they was in space
Yeah.
when he was waking up. So
Yeah, he was
he was
laced.
down for the count after that. So I thought that was another interesting thing there. But definitely a force sensitive baby. And we can only imagine what they want to do with it, alive or dead. I was actually watching I guess where they get into the details, and that the doctor that says that he wanted him alive when he first accepts the bounty, if you look closely at his shoulder, he has a patch, and they said that patch matches the Caminos, the ones that clone the Clone Wars, like they're really good cloners, really into tech. So they're saying that he may be, you know, linked up with them doing some stuff. So we'll see.
Okay.
Definitely. I mean,
Very
even the guy
interesting.
that gave him the bounty, you know, he was with 3 or 4 stormtroopers in their armor. You know, they looked a little dusty, but clearly, you know, some type of connection with them. And if you look at, you know, his chains that he had on, he had his insignias and things. So maybe he was a general, you know, coming out of the fall of the Empire. We don't know yet.
Could definitely go and make sense. That definitely does make sense. I mean, like I said, I'm still kind of, you know, I've still got a little rookie syndrome when it comes to Star Wars, but I'm enjoying everything that I'm reading, everything that I'm seeing. Discussions,
That's a good thing about
lore.
it, man. Like, you'll be
It's
just
so deep.
curious. You'll be curious
man, it's
looking
so
at one
vast.
character. You'll find out about another, and then you're going to go read about him and find out about him.
Man,
and then when
it's
you
so
find out
crazy.
about him, you're going to look at another one because now they done mentioned somebody else, or maybe they mention an event and you want to learn more about the event. And that's what it was
mean-
for me. It's like a rabbit hole.
Oh, like okay. Now we're talking. Well, you were talking a little bit earlier about what you didn't like about the last couple of Star Wars movies, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I happened to watch them this past week, both of those. Gearing up for the last movie, you know what I mean? Because a lot of people are shitting all over the ninth movie before it even comes out because of the
Some of
controversy
these early
that's surrounding
screening
it.
results and things have been
Yeah,
released.
all of these things,
They're
things
talking
were done
about
with certain
bringing George
characters.
Lucas in to fix it all.
All of this shit. But I watched it, and I felt that when I watched it, I came in as a a casual fan, not necessarily somebody who's just what I mean, a diehard fan. So I was kind of looking at it, as a casual fan, just would watch a movie, right?
Right.
And I actually, to be honest with you, yes, there were some things that I didn't like, and it really was the main thing in my opinion. But I enjoyed the fucking movies. I enjoyed both of them. Now, the thing that I didn't enjoy is pretty much what you were pretty much, alluring to, which was the fact that, the protagonist of the movie, she was just too OP. And it didn't make sense for her to be that OP because it wasn't believable. You know what I mean? Like when I watch something, you want to be sold something. I mean, same thing for like take wrestling, for example. I mean, you don't want to see the Undertaker go in there and get handled by, Johnny Sausage Head, because then when you start thinking about, well, shit, his credibility, if you let this guy beat him, then what does that say about everybody else that he fought? You know what I mean? So it kind of had that kind of effect on me as far as she's so raw, doesn't even understand half of what's going on with her, with the force abilities and everything. But yet she's able to, handle Kylo Ren, you know what I'm saying? Like nothing.
Right.
And then, the second movie, a little bit more of that. I feel it was really poured on thick, the first movie though, as opposed to the second movie. But that was really my only gripe. You know what I mean? Make it believable. Yeah. And now people are talking about the third movie of how, now this is what people are saying. Spoiler alert ahead. This is a possible spoiler alert. But as far as the ending of that movie, taking on Palpatine, they're saying that she was able to handle him single-handedly. And I was like, what? That it just is, that's too early in my opinion. It's too early in my opinion for her to be able to do that. And then to me, it'd make more sense if maybe Kylo joined her and together they were able to try to find a way to do that. That makes more sense.
Like they did Snoke in the
yeah,
second one.
you know what I mean? It doesn't. And I hope they change that, Lord, please.
See, I even go, when I look at it, there's a lot of things that I would point out, but I like to kind of summarize it into this one. There was no threat to me because, Snoke, you thought he was going to be something. He got handled. Kylo got handled out the gate. The second movie, didn't do anything too fantastic. And then in the third one, if you watch the trailer, the helmet that he broke in the second one, in his Resistance, he's putting it back together. Like, he's confused. Right. Snoke's gone. Yeah.
But, man, that's why I like Kylo Ren, though. I think Kylo Ren is a dope character because he's layered. Definitely. In a sense, because he's got a lot of shit going on in that mind of his, and he can't. I mean, your daddy is fucking Han Solo. I mean, you got some issues to work out. You know what I mean? Yeah. And then you killed him. I mean, straight up savage shit. I mean, like, I like him because he's a complicated character, and a lot of people fuck with Kylo like that, and I didn't understand why, but a lot of people say, oh, he's whiny and he's this and this and that, but I like him. He's one of my favorite characters from from that movie, along with Finn. And the reason why Finn kind of resonated with me is because there's a lot of mystery behind Finn.
A lot of people say that they wasted it because they didn't explore him more.
But I think, what? I hope they explore more on him later. Even if they don't do what they are supposed to do in this last movie, even in the books or another form of, literature, some kind of form. I hope they elaborate on him because he doesn't even, because where does he come from? We don't know. Like, his name is not, I don't even think his real name is Finn. They call him Finn because it's FN and his number, his troop number or whatever. So I'm like, he doesn't even know who he really is. And then if there was a part in that movie where they had caught him back, he went back and they caught him for a second and they were like, well, go back and put some kind of protocol that they use, I guess, to fry your brain and to simply wipe you clean or whatever. Kind of like a shock therapy type of thing. And they were going, he was he was gonna go there. They were headed that direction, but he got away. But there's a lot of mystery with his character too. So I'm wondering like what's up with this guy, man. I'm really intrigued by him because certain scenes in the movie he was doing stuff. He was doing like OG type shit. There was a fight scene at the end of the second movie where he was, doing the stuck thizzle. I thought he was, and then there was other parts like the lightsaber part where he at least tried. I mean, he got a lick on, Kylo. So I know, man, it's more to him than I think that meets the eye. And I'm still curious on, where they go with this last movie. Yeah.
But, I guess to bring it back to the Mandalorian, we kind of got to that first episode. By the time they saw Baby Yoda, that's kind of where it ended. And I even think the way that first episode ended with him reaching out to, with his finger to kind of touch the baby, I think that said a lot. I mean, on top of the fact that he killed the robot, so the robot wouldn't kill the baby, but also the fact that, because it could have just been he wanted the money, because the guy did say more money alive than dead. But the fact that he reached out to the baby like that, I think shows that character's, I guess, sensitivity, if that's the word I want to use, because he could have just closed that ball and took that thing on. You know what I mean? Like,
right. Or he could have just been thinking about the money.
Right. So I think that showed something. And then that interaction continued in the second movie, and you really got to see a lot as far as those two interacting. And then you get to see some other interesting things, like, what was it, the Jawas? He had a little fight with them. I think that's their name. The little things with the hoods and the red eyes.
Right.
They pulled his ship apart. Oh, God. That was terrible. Ooh. I mean, that thing definitely wasn't going into space with the way they broke it down. And the fact that they gave it all back for an egg, I was thinking about this morning, like, hey, you can get it all back, just get this egg for us. Like, wow. Okay.
Yeah, but it was something they couldn't handle themselves, so, of course. Use this guy, but I think that Baby Yoda is going to have a major role, and I think that Baby Yoda has grown on him to the point to where
definitely, he grew on me.
Yeah, you know what I mean. So I think a number of things I can see happen. I see him turning that baby in, getting the armor that he needs.
Yeah, because he's gonna give him the medal
to flesh out
his
reward.
I think that's really important.
And then going back and taking the baby back and saying, yo, I'm getting him back. Maybe he's wrestling with his conscience, like, man, I shouldn't have did that. And he goes back and gets the baby. And then now they're trying to take it back from him. There's a number of different ways this shit could go. I mean,
yeah,
they show certain characters that you saw in the previews, right? That we haven't seen yet. That I think he's going to eventually come up with a crew, have a nice little crew.
Yeah, because he asked Nick Nolte's character, but he said no, thank you, basically. Right.
But I'm thinking he's going to use another person or two besides those that we haven't seen yet in the show, but that has yet to be seen. And then I think season 2 is where they really like let everything start going. Like, okay, what are these guys going on adventures, trying to do taking on bounties or whatever. But I don't know. Who knows? All I know is these first 2 episodes, man. So far, I can't wait for episode 3.
No, man.
I can't wait everybody's talking about this show. Like, everybody. I had a friend the other night. He was watching it. First thing he started watching when he got the show, the app, was The Mandalorian. And everybody says the same thing, man. It's awesome. It's a dope character. And it's something just different, in the Star Wars universe. When you think of Star Wars, the first thing that pops into my head is lightsabers and Jedi. I mean, that's the first thing that pops in my head. But now, when you hear Mandalorian, man, it's something, cut from a different cloth. It's not necessarily about Jedi. Actually, it's not Jedi in sight. You know what I'm saying? Now you got gunslingers and bounty hunters out here, man, and other entities of people who, can fight, can hold their own, and they don't have to be a Jedi to do it.
And have some very interesting stories to be told.
Exactly. There's so many. That's what is so beautiful, in my opinion, about Star Wars. And then I'm learning even more and more as time goes by. It's just so many things, so many stories. It's so vast. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Like you said, one character you can find, and you could be reading up on him, and then you run into another character that kind of piques your interest, and then you're like, okay, who is this guy or who is this girl? And then next thing you know, you're in their world, you're on their timeline, and you're learning about them. So, man, a beautiful time.
I mean, even through this, I guess, experience, One of the things we were putting together for the show was our top 5 list, and I can't wait to get to that because I got an entry that just made it yesterday.
I got 6.
He just made it to my top 5 list yesterday, and I can't wait to tell you why. But
Well,
these characters is you start to see their stories, and that's when you start to pick them out like that. And I think a good example is because they're so split up, you only get to see that one dimension of that character from that movie. So you don't know about all this other cool stuff they did that really starts to make you like a good friend of mine. He loves Luke Skywalker, but it's not because of the movies. It's because of what he saw Luke do in the books and the comics.
Right.
That's what made him like Luke is that guy. So you really got to see those different things before you could really, I guess, get a feel for some of these characters, and it's interesting. So
it is very interesting.
What more can you ask for?
Very. The movies are just a time in their life, technically, so to speak, just like the other stuff is out here. But now when you start talking about the novels and the comic books and stuff, that's where a lot of Star Wars fans are into more so than the movie, the universe or whatever. Because like you said, there's so many more stories that can be told. The universe is more vast. And that's really what intrigued me too, like the YouTube thing, jumping on YouTube and typing in Star Wars, and then to see what popped the fuck up. So many different, stories of all these different characters and stuff, man. It's just amazing. And then you find a character you gravitate to or you really care for, and there's a story or stories, that are about these guys, like the Clone Wars. Take that for instance. I had never seen the Clone Wars. Okay,
you started that last week, right?
I started that. You were one of the ones that told me that Clone Wars was so good. And then I've heard other people talk about the Clone Wars and the stories and all that. And I think
it's
really
a surprise. I promise you
it is. Like that's like probably if I had to choose like my favorite like timeline in Star Wars, like it'd be the Clone Wars, man, because there's just so many dope things that were happening in that time. And interesting characters. Matter of fact, when we start talking about our favorite characters, man, one of mine is definitely from that. A couple of them actually is from that timeline, and I can't wait to talk about some of these characters. But yeah, I mean the Clone Wars, and even just on the Clone Wars, the show, like it's like 6 seasons right now, and I just wrapped up season 1, so I still have a lot more Clone Wars to jump into, man. And everybody's telling me, "Oh, no, you're just getting into it when you hit season 2."
Right.
So I was like, okay. And matter of fact, I saw the last episode of season 1 was that character you was telling me about, that bounty hunter guy,
Cad Bane.
with the cow. Yeah, Cad Bane. Yeah, his ass. So
my top 5.
I can say he's gonna be like a fucking dirty motherfucker, man. Straight up out here. So
he's a problem, man. He is a problem.
That's what it's looking like. So, and like I said, it transfers right over to season 2. So the first episode of season 2 is Cad Bane is in there. He's up in there. So,
and he had a lot to do with young Boba Fett. After his dad died, he linked up with Cad Bane for some time. So it's all good there, man.
Man, I'm learning every day, man. I'm learning something new. Like
maybe this is a good time to get into the top 5, because I feel like when I give them, I'm going to kind of explain why, and it's going to touch on a big arc. So
go ahead, lay it down.
Okay.
8-ball MJG it.
Okay, so first of all, we're going to go with Mace. I love Mace Windu.
Oh, you okay? Oh, wait
definitely
a minute.
Mace Windu is on the list.
Okay.
He's got the respect, he's got the power, and he's something special. Not just because of the purple lightsaber, not just because it's Sam L. Mace as a character is strong. Mace as a Jedi is one of the only ones that's so close to the dark side, but still so committed to the light. And I think that is just amazing.
Hence the purple lightsaber, man.
Right. And not to mention the fact that he did throw down with Palpatine and win. A lot of people like to forget that. Had Anakin not been there, I think we might not have had the Clone War as long as it lasted.
Yeah, that's true.
I guess that was the end of the Clone War, but you know what I'm saying. That would have been the end. We wouldn't have got to Luke and all of that, because Mace was about to end it right there. So that's Mace, and just for the sake of where he fits into it, Mace was definitely in the Clone Wars prior to. He's a human, so he didn't live a ridiculously long time like Yoda or something to stretch all of these wars. But Mace comes off. I don't want to call him a hitman, because that's not what the Jedi are supposed to do. But
shit,
when they need when they need to send somebody in to get it done, that's who they send. I mean, you see it in the movies. It's Mace with somebody with him, and there's a reason why. Next, I'm going to go with Cad Bane. We just talked
Oh,
about
no,
him.
this is not in any particular order, or is it in order?
No particular order because
okay.
I think my fifth slot's kind of a toss up, and then I got a couple honorable mentions, so not in any particular order.
Okay.
Cad Bane, I feel like he just saw a lot of success as a bounty hunter, especially as you continue to watch through Clone Wars.
Yeah,
and it wasn't even so much like the character that I just liked the design a whole lot or the way he spoke a whole lot. It was literally the fact that this dude was a problem. Like he come up with his plan, he executed. You see it in the Clone Wars, and he was there on some very critical battles and critical things. Like, and he came out successful. Okay, like even when they thought they captured this man, he wanted to be captured. So I haven't seen. I mean, there's some other bounty hunters that do well, but I feel like he had ridiculous amount of success, and obviously he was in the Clone Wars, kind of on the back end there. Well, I don't want to say the back end, but I guess the beginning part. Next I'm gonna go with Darth Revan, and I know that's a name a lot of people may not know. What was the name of the game? The RPG.
Knights of the Old Republic.
Knights of the Old Republic. That was actually Darth Revan's story. It's just that they let you create a character and slide him in.
A lot of people don't know. Younger listeners, I'm sure they wouldn't.
I can go on for like 30, 45 minutes on Darth Revan because he was just such a critical piece to this story prior to everything that happened. But he definitely make it. He was human. His time period, Mandalorian War would be Darth Revan's time period to kind of put that in. So that's before the Clone War, well before, and obviously important because he does connect to the Mandalorians and their story, because the Mandalorians were basically fighting with the Empire, like just giving them problems. Like I said, made them adapt their armor after them. So, but the problem was the Jedi would not enter the war. So the Mandalorians was just winning. So, but Darth Revan, he had some problems with it. I mean, he wasn't Darth Revan at the time, but because he was a Jedi. And so he was having some problems with that. He entered the war by himself. A couple people followed him. The Jedi were against it, but he did it. Obviously the Republic liked him because he was helping them win. But it basically kind of twisted him because he had to do darker and darker things in this war to keep up with these Mandalorians. Until he eventually destroyed the Mandalorians and his own army, like just ended them both. And that was kind of when he really started. See, I get it. It's so long because he was a Jedi, then he turned into a Sith, then he turned into a Jedi again, and then he went into like this combination thing, kind of. Some people would say like one of the early first gray Jedi, because he saw the need to have both, because he was a Jedi master and a Sith Lord, like at a very high level. So it's like that was kind of one of the things he left the Jedi with before he left. But Darth Revan, definitely check him out in critical piece. I like him. Next, I'm gonna put the Mandalorian. I'm gonna put him in there, man.
The same ones.
I'm gonna put him in there, man, because I haven't seen enough, so I kind of hesitate. But and we got some more episodes to see. But what I've seen so far, I think I can get down with the get down. Now this next one, Obi-Wan, and this surprised me. This surprised me. Okay, I sent you a video I was watching the other day that was like 30 minutes or so that broke him all the way down. And I mean, he was there before the Clone Wars, after Clone Wars, obviously, all the way up to the New Hope, because he, became one with the Force. But when you look at the body of work of Obi-Wan, he's not particularly talented. Like, this is my thing. When I first saw Star Wars, you see those 3 movies, you see this old man, he died at the end, shows up as a Force ghost, cool, whatever. But when you can actually go back and put together all these other pieces, that's when you really start to see how awesome this guy was. Starting in episode 1, he takes out Darth Maul. An important thing that I learned about Obi-Wan is the fact that what made him so strong is the fact that he's always so balanced. So it's hard to throw him off kill, so to speak. They say he didn't even need a Jedi code to keep the code, essentially. So, and as you watch the show, I know you've seen him. The way he talks, I think it could be misconstrued for arrogant, but really I just see unshakable confidence. And the way he delivers his one-liners and everything, but he actually delivers on it. But he's not, like I said, completely invincible. Obviously, if you watch those first 3 movies, Anakin had to save him a couple times from Dooku and all that type stuff. But
Yeah.
who Dooku is an amazing duelist, by the way. So it's not that he got handled by a scrub. But
Of course.
you know, the thing with Darth Maul, I really like Darth Maul. He almost made the list. Should have probably. But his arc with Darth Maul, for it to stretch as long as it did, because, you know, after I watched episode 1, I thought Darth Maul was dead, which is why I loved the Clone Wars when they had that season featuring him and his brother. Can't wait till you see that one. And so, you know, he's still alive and doing his thing. And it's funny because all of this still connects to the Mandalorians, right? Because I mentioned Darth Revan, you know, Mandalorian War, you know, they got destroyed after that. And then fast forward to what I'm saying with Obi-Wan. They were still, Obi-Wan was dealing with the Mandalorian, I guess it's like their queen or something. She was basically trying to take the Mandalorians to peace, while the other faction was still about war. But Obi-Wan basically was in love with her. Like, would have left the Jedi Council if she had said so. But he didn't. So there, once again, the Mandalorians. And then fast forward to the end, you know, you see the Mandalorians come back together, apparently in Rebels. That's when they reunited under the black lightsaber, which is a whole nother conversation. But Obi-Wan has just been a presence throughout this whole thing, obviously with Luke and all of that. But when you talk about Darth Maul, I remember now with the Mandalorian, Darth Maul was the leader of the Mandalorians for a while. In that saga I'm talking about, you actually see it. Like, he goes, kills their leader, becomes their de facto leader, and they follow him because that's how they roll. He eventually is captured and they free him, and he goes back to Mandalore and he's just chilling. Until this is where I'm telling you, like I said, this is just recently that he became, like, he made the list. So when Darth Maul eventually goes back, because he ain't never get over the fact that Obi-Wan beat him. He is such a ball of rage. So he eventually goes to find Obi-Wan when he's an old man on Tatooine. And they talk and they fight, and Obi-Wan beats him. And Obi-Wan holds this man as he dies. And I just said, wow, what does it take to hold one of your enemies like that as they die? As you're the one who killed them. Yeah. Like, literally holding him in his arms like a child as he crossed over.
That's
I was touched.
Shit.
I was touched. That was amazing.
Yeah.
For him
that's
to
that
do
warrior
that.
shit, man. When you shed blood, when you know, you have that type of those type of fights, battles.
It shows that he don't let the hatred consume him, man.
Yeah.
And then even some of the lines he delivers, you know, about standing against the darkness, like, you know, you think it's weak to not, you know, bow to the darkness. And Obi-Wan says, no, it takes strength to stand against the darkness. So those are some of the strongest people you'll see. So yeah, man, Obi-Wan made the list with that move right there. And then, like I said, the total body of work, just amazing. I think an honorable mention before I hand it over to you for yours is General Grievous. And the reason why is because if you watch the Clone Wars, they actually watered General Grievous down. Okay? And they did it on purpose. General Grievous was a problem. He was vicious. He was just ferocious. And the reason why they turned him down is because they didn't want to have that competition with Vader as far as who was that bad boy. You know what I mean?
Right.
So Grievous definitely made it. I mean, even looking at his backstory, and I think this is why it's an important point. Like, there's a whole nother Grievous before he became the android leader that was like a warrior to his people, a hero, fighting a whole nother war on his planet before the Republic came in. Like, it's like, again, the lore is just crazy. So honorable mention, General Grievous. Darth Bane is another name that comes to mind. I think he was the one responsible for a lot of the do with the Sith and the ruler too. You know, there's only a Jedi and there's only a master and apprentice with the Sith for a reason, because they always, if there's too many Sith, they always fight each other because it's always about power. So that's why they cut it down to the ruler too. So I'd throw him in there, I guess. But yeah, man, what do you think about your 5?
Man, those were good, very good choices. There's with so many characters out there. I mean, damn. I mean, you can't really pick a bad one. I mean, I don't think.
No, man.
We had some of the same ones though. I mean, we definitely had Mace Windu on there because You know, I just think he's like one of the rawest, from what I've seen up to this point, one of the rawest guys with a lightsaber in his hand. He's very unique in that aspect of. I think that's why he has a purple lightsaber. You know, to distinguish him from the other Jedi. Like you said, he's kind of like the hit. He's not technically a hitman, but he's like that, the muscle, you
When
know,
they
of the
get the
Jedi. If
job
you want to
done.
call him that. Yeah, you know what I mean. So that's why he's on there. Also, you mentioned Mando, because we really don't know his name right now, so I'm calling him Mando. You calling him Mando, the Mandalorian. That's what got me, interested about Disney Plus. That's what really kind of got me into the lore of Star Wars, so to speak, as deep as I am in now, was because of the Mandalorian. My curiosity, for this character. So that he's on there. But a couple other ones, man. We talked about Kylo Ren earlier. Kylo Ren is another one of my characters that I really, really enjoy. He's very complicated in a sense, man. And I don't know. I just, there's something about him that I just like, because he's fighting, his inner demons, and he's 9 times out of 10 he's losing those battles. But like I said, you kill your own father.
Funny.
I mean, you kill Han Solo, you're a fucking savage. Okay, straight up. I don't give a fuck. And looked at him dead in his fucking kisser, and as he did it. I mean, that's savage. I don't give a fuck what you say.
I like his lightsaber.
Yeah, of course. Listen, you didn't let me chance to get ready for that. But yes, his lightsaber is very unique as well. It's sick. Even his whole getup, like his mask, all of the shit I thought was icy. I thought, you know what I mean? And his obsession with Darth Vader is another thing, you know what I mean? Yeah. That kind of got me intrigued by him. And like I said, it's what makes him human. It's kind of what makes him flawed. You know what I mean? He's looking up to this character that he really doesn't know what as much as he thinks he knows about this character, but he's adopted, what's the word I'm looking for? I guess, I don't even know. I can't come up with the word, but it makes him complicated. He's more complicated. He's a complicated character.
I think the fact that this his grandfather plays a factor to that, right?
His grandfather.
To know that he's related to him, right? Is Leia's son, right?
Yeah, true. Yeah. That's part of it. But like I said, you got a father. He came from his family. Pretty much, his family tree is great. You know what I mean?
Yeah, true.
He comes from Star Wars.
He can pick either side.
You know what I'm saying? And I don't know. I just think his struggle with the dark side is what kind of, makes him intriguing to me. That's why he's there for me. And just like I said, he's an awesome character. He's an awesome looking character as well. So you can't hate that. And I can't wait to see what's going to happen in the final movie though now. But also, another character I wanted to add was, of course, Boba Fett. Boba Fett, okay. Which is a lot of people's favorites out here in this universe, is because he's just a renowned bounty hunter. Cloned after yours truly, Django. Yeah, Django Fett. You know what I mean? Who was an awesome character in his own right. I mean, if you're anybody able to kill 5 Jedi barehanded, I mean, you understand why they wanted his clones. They wanted to clone after him. So that's cool in itself. And then Boba was just another piece of work. You know what I mean? And of course, in the Star Wars movies, he died. That dumbass death, but in the books and in the novels and stuff, he lives on. So he actually
Two Mace
died
Windu.
So.
Don't forget.
You said what?
I said 2 Mace Windu. He died. Django.
Yeah, Django. Yeah. Mace handled him accordingly. You know what I'm saying? Another character, like I said, this makes 5. This is the 5th one. This is Finn. We talked about him a little bit.
Okay,
Finn,
he made it. Huh?
There's a lot. Yeah, he made it. It's a lot of, because like I said, I looked at those movies, man, and he's like the realest character I could think of out of the whole story, out of all the characters.
What? That is a very good point.
Is like the realest one that you could just see, like somebody really doing the things that he did, acting how he acted, put in certain situations like that. He was trained because he's a stormtrooper, so he's trained somewhat. So he knows a little bit of something, but like I said, he let a lot of scenes where he let the event, take over him. But there were other scenes where he got his shit together and he was like, look, come on, man, you can't be like this. You can't do this. And he basically grabbed his nuts and he went out there and he said he did some gangster. Yes, he did the gangster shit when he was fighting with that trooper at the end, and he was telling him, look, come on, like bring that shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, You know what I'm saying? So he was doing some dope shit in there. So I just really liked his character a lot, man. And then also the mystery, surrounding him as far as, who is he really? Like, will we find that out? Will we eventually know who this guy is, where he came from, and all that? That's another thing I really want to know. So that's another reason why he made the list. The last character on this list was because of the Clone Wars. Watching the first season of Clone Wars and then doing some research on this guy, man, and reading about him a little bit. And that's Captain Rex.
Got him.
Captain Rex from the Clone Wars, man, is a dude who I just fucking loved. He's a clone, you know what I mean? And he's one of the best clones. And you have to keep in mind, when these clones, they were made after, after Jango's image and everything, but not all clones were created equal. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. There were people, just like if you put 10 people in a room, even though they came from one guy, a couple of these guys are going to rise to the top like bubbles. You know what I mean? Everybody's not identical. They have the potential to be exactly. Those clones have the potential to be what Jango Fett was, or something similar, and sometimes even better. And he was one of the ones that rose to the fucking top. You know what I mean? Became commander, because you have general, then you have commander, and then you have captain. And he made captain, and he's the one out there in the field. He's the one out there, in the nook of everything. Commander Wolf was also dope. But Captain Rex, man, stole my heart. And then also just his aesthetics, what he's wearing. If you look at his costume, like his suit, I call him the Grim Reaper of drones, droids, because dude has he's marked the fuck up. Like, when they kill droids and shit and drones and whatever, they mark themselves. You know what I mean? Like, you got 4 marks, 4 lines, and then the 5th one is like the crossover. So you make 5. So like on his fucking arm, like he's all over him, he's got marks from like motherfuckers he's taken out. You know what I mean? So I just thought that was some gangster shit. You know what I'm saying? From the Clone Wars. And like I said, I can't wait to dive deeper into the Clone Wars and get more familiar with this guy's character. But those are 6 characters, man. I couldn't kick one of them out. You know what I'm saying? I had to put 6 of them in there. So that's me. That's what I have.
When you watch it, keep an eye on a clone named Cody, because that was Obi-Wan's boy. That was a clone.
Okay, there's a couple other ones in there that's pretty dope. There's
Obi-Wan really liked Cody, to my understanding.
There's Boyle, there's fucking Waxer. There's some other ones from different infantries in there, you know what I'm saying? But I fuck with 501, the 501st Infantry. That's my shit. That's who I run with. Those are my main squad. But yeah, there's definitely some other notable clones in there that go hard as well. But mine is just got to be Rex. But while we're talking about all this stuff, man, we got to get into this Jedi, the Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. The game came out Friday. Okay, the game came out Friday. We've been playing it. I mean, we're in it. We're knee deep.
That's
one thing I can say,
where I'd say I'm knee deep.
Man, this game, I'm looking at the screen. I'm looking at Cal Kestis's face right now on a pause screen, just sitting here asking me, yo, what's up, man? We gonna get back into it or what?
Swing this favor, man.
You know what I'm saying? This game, I have to say, I'm so glad I picked this game up, man. This game is awesome. Okay, let me just say that, before you just throw that out there. It's definitely a different Star Wars game, and I'm glad. I also, on a side note, I did pick up. I picked up The Force Unleashed 1 and 2 at my local movie trading company. Man, so psyched about that. Couldn't even remember it came out on the PlayStation 3, but I remember playing it on the PlayStation 2. But it's actually available for the PlayStation 3. I have them both. Can't wait to dive into that later at a later date. But comparing this game, as far as a Star Wars game that we haven't had in so long, this game is definitely different. It's cut from a different cloth. You're not going to get the same gameplay as you would get for something like the Force Unleashed type of game. And that's a good thing. Yeah. You don't want it to be the same. You want it to be different. This game has a lot of exploration into it, man. The world is fleshed the fuck out. If you want to get into Star Wars lore and you want to just dive into, man, this is it right here. I'm telling you right now. And it's its own story. It's a separate story. We've been both playing the game. This is how awesome this shit is. We both have different things. Like, he did some shit that, he went some places and did some things that I didn't do, or I didn't necessarily, follow that path. And I went another direction and did some other things, man. This game is people say that, yeah, it's not open world, it's semi-open world, but don't let that semi fool you. Don't let that word semi fool you, because this game opens the fuck up. These worlds are huge. These sections on these planets are fucking ridiculous. Once you start unlocking some of your abilities, and you start gaining access to parts of this world, oh man, it fucking opens up. And how do you? I want to hear about from you. I want to know how you feel about the game. Like, what are your impressions of the game so far? From what you played.
I mean, I'm just gonna kind of go as they come to my head. Graphics, check. Example I wouldn't say compare it to, but one that's fresh in my mind when I'm looking at graphics is Death Stranding. Man, it's a whole nother conversation, but the graphics were there. I felt like this definitely competed. I didn't see anything that, took me out of the experience. So I think it was kind of one of those things where it's like, this is PlayStation 4 Pro. I'm expecting a certain quality at a minimum, and I feel like they met that and kind of exceeded it.
And you're playing on the Pro, right?
Yes,
yeah.
sir.
I'm playing on the regular PlayStation, and like I said, I mean, I'm not having any issues with it, man. I'm enjoying it. I'm sure it looks a little bit better.
Yeah, it looks good.
Playing on the Pro.
I haven't seen any ridiculous load issues. I've seen a couple, but nothing ridiculous.
Okay.
It's a platformer. Like, I have to put that out there. And like, me and platforming games is kind of I'll do it.
I'd call it a light platformer, though. I wouldn't call it like a hands-on. Like,
I feel like
it doesn't
if you ain't platforming, you fighting. Like, mixing between the two.
No, I mean, like, okay, I guess I thought you were talking, like, as far as, like, how hard the platforming was. Like, you know what I mean?
I say
like,
it's hard. I dang sure
fell.
I fell a lot.
When you think platformer, though, I think like, a lot of, as the game progresses, it's going to be a lot of more complicated, platforming that you'd have to do to make it here or whatever. But see, the difference between that, a platformer, in my opinion, a real platformer, is that when you fall off those cliffs and shit, you die. You know what I mean?
Right.
In this game, you don't, because they know that there's a lot of it that happens. So they don't want to take you out of that experience. And that's what they said. That's from their words, from their mouths.
When you say platforming, what game comes to mind immediately?
I'm thinking like Mario Brothers. I'm thinking about, those type of games. Okay. Where you literally, when you fall off a cliff or something, you actually do die, and you have to do it over again until you make that jump, or make that, Prince of Persia, shit like that, where you die from fucking up, on these platforms, these jumps and stuff. And you're not looking forward to, oh shit, I gotta make all these jumps perfectly, or else I gotta start back over and do all this shit again. Yeah. You know what I mean? That's what comes to mind on that. Now, yes, it does. There are platforms and stuff to do, but you don't get punished. You don't think
it was too much yet? I know you.
No, I don't think. I don't think so, man. Because there's some instances. Trust me. You like I said, you've.
It's in there.
You're gonna see, but it's not like it's not so crushing by any stretch of the imagination at all. Okay. Especially when you don't even die from them. You know what I mean? It's just if you fall off the cliff, it takes like a smidget of your health.
Put you back up there.
Yeah, put you right back up there. If anything, like the combat is definitely more, from what I've seen, it's definitely more challenging than I thought it was going to be. Watching, the devs played and stuff, you know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. I'm playing on definitely, Jedi Master is the difficulty I got it on.
You're playing on what?
Jedi Master.
Oh, is that the hardest?
No, that's Grandmaster.
Okay.
I ain't do that to myself. That parry window was too small.
Okay. Yeah. See, I'm just playing on regular, and I'm still, it's still, issues, some guys, man, that I got to kind of like, take my time with and everything like that, which is cool though. I like that challenge of it, especially those fucking shock troopers and stuff, man. I mean, you really get into some intense battles. I actually recorded a couple battles that I'm gonna chop up and do videos on for later. That, I just want to do a kind of like a montage of some of those awesome, fights. You know what I mean? Because when you're out there fighting and you're doing that shit,
when you really get the swing of it, right?
Oh yeah, man, it is some epic shit.
It is nice.
It is some epic shit. So. There's some there's some things in here. I'm not going to spoil the story for you guys, because, it's only been out for a couple of days of this, when you get this podcast, and I want to give everybody a chance to get this shit and play it for a little bit. But next week I will be talking about it, more in depth. You know what I mean? Yeah, because then I want to talk about the story. I want to talk about where the story goes and where all that stuff goes and where it stands in this universe and, what happened to all these other characters here. Because there's some interesting characters, man. Your team of people. You have Seer, which is basically she's technically your master now, I guess in essence. And that's what they want you to believe in this game. The female character you meet in the game earlier in the game. Then you have Grease, which is like the pilot of the ship. You know what I mean? Who's a funny guy or whatever.
Yeah,
they always give you
definitely
some of
is a
those
character.
characters. They're definitely, and then I'm sure you guys seen the previews or whatever. This is not a spoiler. A character by the name of Saul Guerrera, and that guy, if you're not familiar with him, he's definitely the guy from the Rogue One movie, played by Forrest Whitaker. Yeah, so you run into him, and that also brought me to an interesting, what made it interesting to me is that when you meet this guy, when you meet him in Rogue One, he's younger, he's a little younger, and then when you finally see him again in the movie, he's old and he doesn't have legs. Okay, he lost his legs somehow, and in this game, he's even younger than he was in Rogue One when you first saw him. So, and he's walking around and everything's good. This guy has been around in this universe, man. He's been doing his thing out here in these Star Wars streets, man. In the shadows, trying to get stuff done, and they want you to see that in this game. Now, I don't think the story is all the way panned out yet. I did brush up against him and meet him a little bit in the game, and I hope I see him again. But
I don't remember
man,
in Rogue One. Was he? I don't know. I thought he was more like a smuggler bounty hunter, but after playing the game, it looked like he was a freedom fighter.
Yeah, he is a freedom fighter.
Okay.
He's more so of a freedom fighter. Think of that. Yeah,
Okay.
that's perfect. That's perfect for this guy, who basically wants to, of course he cannot stand
Empire.
the Empire. Yeah, the Empire is not his friend. Like, yeah. So he's one of those guys that's quietly fighting, in the shadows. You know what I mean? And if he has to, come out to do certain things, he will. And that's the kind of character he is. And I hope they elaborate more on him. You know what I mean? Like maybe there are stories out there about this guy that I don't know about, because like I said, when you talk about novels and comics, I mean, who knows what the fuck is out there yet? I haven't even explored that avenue yet. I'm still kind of like in the other stuff right now, but I definitely will venture out into some of those other stories. And they do some of it on YouTube now. I mean, you can look up, just Google a certain character and type them into YouTube, and there's all kind of stories and books and stuff that happens. I mean, I've saw some Mace Windu stories. I've seen a shitload of Vader stories. So yeah, I hope they elaborate on a lot of this stuff, on some more of these other characters, man, if they haven't already.
What you thinking about
But
those
yeah,
puzzles? And
Those, yeah, see, now there's some puzzles in here that'll have you scratching your head. Let's keep it real with each other. Just lay off the sake before you turn on the game, and you should be okay. But there was one that had me stumped for a couple hours.
Did you have to look it up, or did you just work through it?
Man, I had to look it up. I'm not gonna lie. I'm keeping it real.
I worked through it. I was literally about 2-3 minutes from looking it up when I figured it out.
I had to look it up, and it was right there. It was staring at me right in the face the whole time. Like, I'm running around the whole fucking map thinking that I missed something. No, it was right fucking there. Because I knew I did everything else. I was like, yo, I did it all. No, I had to look that one up. I'm not gonna lie. Now, as we stand on this podcast, I am confronted by another one. I've finally unlocked some other things. I've unlocked some of my force abilities. Pretty much all my force. I've got my push and my pull now. So I'm cooking with Crisco, but I'm stuck at a new puzzle. So, that's where I'm at. So I haven't been there that long, maybe like 15, 20 minutes. So
okay, you just got to.
You want give me another, I should figure it out, because they gave me a hint, but I didn't hear him. He was trying to give me a hint, and something happened in the house. Somebody was walking around or something, and I missed it. So hopefully
that happened to me
it'll
a
happen
couple
again.
times.
And I can, you know what I'm saying? And I can listen to him again and hear what he was saying, and then I can be like, okay. I mean, I know what the problem is. I just got to figure out how to stop it.
Oh man, I
mean?
guess
So,
I'm gonna be looking at puzzle in his face here pretty soon myself, because I know you're a little bit ahead of me, which is actually even what you were talking about, the fact that we did do, 2 different paths. Like,
yeah, we
really,
took 2
really.
different paths. Yeah.
And I think that is
for real,
kind of crazy, especially because you got powers I didn't have, abilities or equipment that I didn't, and vice versa.
Yeah.
And for this to be a single player game where it's just 2 planets to choose from. I did hit a dead end on Darthamir eventually, though. Like I'm gonna have to go back when I get some more stuff, but I did run.
Oh yeah, it's more than 2 planets though.
Oh yeah, definitely.
It's
But just for
it's
that opening,
well, right
slide,
now it's 4.
I think that's really where we kind of deviated and our own little story started to develop.
Right. I want to say that they were saying it was like around 7 planets, but
Yeah, I think I got like 3 or 4 of them right now.
yeah.
What'd you think of the
They're
Wookiees?
definitely-
A lot of people weren't impressed with the Wookiee look.
You said they weren't impressed?
No, with the way the Wookiees looked on Kashyyyk.
They I thought they were purposely made to look like that though. I mean,
They could have looked better. I'll tell you that. That's
They
like
look to me
one
like,
design where they fumbled a little bit.
to me they look like they just look like maybe like they were purposely not wanting them to look like, oh boy, like they kind of
Chewbacca.
wanted to look the Chewbacca, like they kind of wanted to show you that there's different kind of their hair seems shorter. It you know what I mean?
Haggard.
They just they just seemed like they were a different. They were not the same.
Yeah.
But I mean,
And
like I
by
said,
the way,
it's-
Chewbacca was alive during the Clone Wars, to my recollection. Yoda knows him. Like, they're buddies.
man, I wonder how old they fucking get
I
because
think they get up there. That's the only reason why I remember. Because I think there's an episode in Clone Wars where Yoda's chilling with Chewbacca, basically.
yeah, because he looks just.
And by the
young
way,
and
when I
vibrant
gave
as
my
ever.
5 and threw Grievous in there, I forgot to throw Yoda in there as an honorable mention. Like,
Okay,
to see that
okay.
green guy go off with that lightsaber
Yeah.
in those 2 movies, amazing.
Yeah, that's my boy's favorite. Yoda. He was like,
He
Yoda's
definitely
the
is
dude.
dope.
Yeah, Yoda's the truth.
He
And was
got
old as
that
fuck there,
confidence
so-
like Obi-Wan be talking a little slick to you too.
Yeah, for sure, for sure, definitely. As far as the game, I would love to talk more about the game, but man, without giving too much of the shit away, man.
I definitely need to see
mean,
some more myself. But I like what I had
It-
so far, to be clear. I know I had some issues, I guess, but I got through them and it's not going to stop me. And that's the thing. Like, if it presents that type of issue where you don't want to continue, then that's a whole nother thing. But nah, it wasn't that bad.
Like I'm gonna tell y'all right now, Zepho, that planet though, that shit opens up. Like when I played it, I kind of thought, okay, I see what they're trying to do as far as it's pretty expansive. And then in my mind, I was like, but it's not as big as I thought it was going to be. That's what I was thinking right before I got the force push. And then as soon as I got the force push, when I start opening other sections up and other areas up, that's when the shit got ridiculous. That's when the shit just started expanding and expanding and expanding over. It kept on. And just when you said, okay, this is enough, it's got to be done now. No, there's another part that opens up and I'm like, oh my God. It's so this fucking, yeah.
And they make you revisit some of those planets, not just you
Oh, yeah, you have
wanted to
to.
go back and look for something like like even the story. Go back to Zepho, do this.
Yeah.
Go back
Yeah.
to Kashyyyk, do that, and then open up another planet. So I thought that was interesting too.
There's some more shit. And then there's some things that you don't necessarily have to explore if you don't want to. I mean, there'll be things that you can skip over if you really wanted to and get through the story. But you're missing out on a lot of different things. A lot of it's cosmetic, and some of it's lore, different parts and things like that. But there's still things to be discovered out here. And like I said, for me, man, I'm looking at it now like 100% in this. I don't know if I'll be able to do it because the shit is so big.
I don't think
But
I will. I think I'm gonna work
but-
through this story.
I'm gonna try it though. I'm definitely gonna try and see if I can. Because like I said, it depends on these shortcuts because, these shortcuts open up good enough and that, then I can see myself doing it. Because then it'll be easy to
Have
see
you
if
gotten
point
lost
one,
yet?
point B.
I did.
I got
lost on one of
lost.
them planets trying to get back to the ship because you can't fast travel, ladies and gentlemen.
Right. You can't. That's one of my only gripes about the game is no fast travel. But I think they remedy that in a sense with the shortcuts because once
It
you
definitely
find
makes it a little better, yeah.
I mean, because literally, there's some shortcuts, man, on here that will literally take you right to the ship. I mean, that's why you explore them. That's why you have to, you have to explore the whole thing, and they're gonna bust your balls on that exploration shit. But they're gonna at the end, they're gonna reward you for doing all that, and then that's when all those shit come unlock. And then the beautiful thing is when you get that all moment, when you're like, oh, okay, I see where I'm at now. I see what this doorway, why it was closed. This is just taking me back to the beginning. So getting back to your ship, is going to be easier. Now, that green area, the first area you land on, that when you first start the game, that one was a pain in the ass to get back to the ship, in my opinion, at first. And I think the reason why it was because, we didn't have all these abilities unlocked to get to the other places to unlock these shortcuts there. So I think when I go back there, I think it's called Bongo, I want to say.
I think I remember.
But once I go back there and start unlocking shit there, man, I think that it'll get the shortcuts and stuff will become more apparent, and it'll make it way easier to get back to your ship.
Oh,
I think that's how it's working out. What's that?
One of it's not game breaking, but it is something I thought about, and I didn't think about it. Like, when they first did the previews, they were talking about this whole thing with dismemberment, cutting off limbs and things. I didn't think too much of it. I really didn't. It's Disney. Do what you got to do. And the funny thing is, and I do mean funny, they don't give a dang about them dinosaurs or them aliens. You can cut them up into many pieces as you want. But it's funny though, because I do start to realize it when you do fight those, the humanoid ones, and it's a lightsaber, right? So when this thing hits, it's supposed to hit.
Yeah.
And so when you're fighting some of these humanoid characters, it does kind of take a little bit from the realism when you hit that arm and that arm don't fall off.
Right.
I did,
especially when you're used to seeing that in the Star Wars, franchise.
Definitely.
When you see it on movies and stuff.
And that's when it did become a point. I mean, like I said, it's nothing game breaking. You get over it. Like I said, you could cut them animals up into many pieces you want, but you do. I did notice it, and I think that it would have added a certain something to it. I ain't saying we had to just get ridiculous and heads and stuff everywhere, but they show the lines where you hit the creature, right? So if I'm hitting this dude in his arm, I want to see that arm off, even if he want to keep trying to fight me. but I did. Yeah. I am starting to peep that, but it's not. You get over it. But I like I said before, I didn't care, but now that you get into it, you notice it. And the only other thing
they're saving some stuff though. They said that they hinted at that some of the story moments,
and that's the thing too.
Change that.
And I didn't know this because even George Lucas, when he does his movies, when people lose limbs, that's why he didn't have people limbs getting lopped off crazy in the movies either. Because when those moments happen, he wanted them to have impact. So, if we're looking at it like that, I got you. But with all those things said, and even everything else we talked about, graphics, the way it was put together, the combat, this game has me very excited for the next Star Wars game.
Oh, yes.
It really did. I didn't expect that to come out of this. Because I feel like with the things they were able to do here, if I could see this, I don't know if it takes them 2 to 5 years to do it. I want to be able to make my own Jedi again. I want this level of graphics. I want this level of combat. I mean, what is it? Knights of the Old Republic? Let's do that.
Yeah.
Let's bring it forward. Let's take this cool tech, some of the best things we saw in this game. Let's put it in there. If we did some co-op, let's do that. But it's got me excited for what they're going to do next with the Star Wars games after this one. Please don't go backwards.
Oh. No, I don't. EA, I will say this. And this podcast is starting to come to a close, but I will say this: I cannot stand EA. EA is like the bane of my existence. It's one of the companies that I hate them.
It's so sad.
Every being in my soul.
Because I liked them when they was doing Madden.
Because the fuckery is real out here in these video game streets, and they're if I had to put a word to EA, what they are, they remind me of. It should be Darth EA.
Oh, or, man.
If I'm using Star Wars reference, these motherfuckers are the Empire, what I'm saying, tenfold. Okay. Trying to fuck over. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? That's what I would say. And they're just you got to keep in mind, they're a publisher company. They're publishers. So they're not, they don't have hands on making the game. But that's why this game is, I think, so good, because their paws weren't able to get on this. They weren't able to say, okay, well, let's put out this paid DLC, or let's put out, this pay to win type shit or whatever. That's why I think that this game is it's a single player game. They can't fuck this up. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So Spawnwave did an excellent job with this title. I'll definitely have a full review of this game next week. Hopefully I'll have it finished, and I'll get into all of that. But as far as right now, what I've been playing, man, it's definitely right now. It's a definite 9 out of 10 for me, straight up. And that's what I have. And it might change a little bit, give or take a half a point or maybe 1 point, by the time it's done and I finish it. But that's still a great game. And I'm definitely looking forward to more Star Wars games, man. I can't wait to play wait to play the other Star Wars games. The
Force Unleashed.
the Force Unleashed games, man, that I got. I haven't played those in years, so that'll be something else to look forward to later on at another.
They were good.
another
I
time.
really enjoyed the first one, but they were both good.
Everybody says they really love the first one, man. The second one was good, but they say the first one was even better for some reason. I need to find out why that was. Again, I can't remember.
I don't know if it was
I played them both,
sequences. But I wouldn't even say it was necessarily the story. It was just, I don't know. We'll have to look at it after you play it. It's been a while for me.
Definitely be doing that. But yeah, man, this podcast was an excellent fucking podcast, man. I enjoyed chopping it up with my boy Dig about the Star Wars stuff, which we've had many conversations leading up to this.
Oh man, I'm trying not to go
podcast.
all over the place with it because it's just crazy what's up here. Maybe at some point we can like really just break down the timeline and some of the stuff we read because it's interesting and it's good.
Oh yeah, no doubt about that, man. And I'm a baby, with a bowl of cereal in front of him, ready to eat my Star Wars cereal. You know what I mean? That's all I've been doing this past week, guys. That's it. Nothing else. I haven't gotten my anime. I haven't even got Vinland Saga out the way yet.
Oh man, you just reminded me.
Let's get about that Vinland Saga episode,
Gotta
man. Definitely got to do that one. I'll be talking about that one next week.
I did watch My Hero.
We've been waiting on this. Yeah, and we got to catch up on My Hero. We had that hiatus on both of these, so we had hiatuses on both. It's just, but the Star Wars shit games. I mean, I picked up how many figures did I pick up, man? Guys, you guys know when I get into something, I go balls deep. I picked up like 5 figures. I think I picked up the Mandalorian. I picked up Kylo Ren. I picked up Finn. I picked up fucking Captain Rex. Shit, I picked up Mace Windu. Yeah. So like, you know what I mean? So I just, I had to do it, man. I had to make a shelf. I had to put some, I had to make some room on the shelf for these guys. You know what I mean? Because like I said, I'm here. I'm a Star Wars guy now. I'm officially in the building. So there will be more Star Wars talk in this podcast. There will be more of that going on out here. And like I said before, guys, if you want to be on the show, a guest on the show, you want to come on here, you want to talk, pick my brain, or maybe even let me pick yours about anime, video games, nerd culture, man, you can do that. You can reach out to your boy on Instagram at Studio MacGyver79. On Twitter at Studio MacGyver. Also, check out the fucking Facebook page, man, at Studio MacGyver as well. My boy, like I said, Dig is going to have some avenues you guys can reach him in coming soon. Like I said, guys, he's been on the podcast twice already in the last month, and it's becoming more of a regular thing, and I'm very excited about, future endeavors with this guy.
I enjoy it.
And, I mean, we're here. You know what I'm saying? Trying to give you guys what you need. And that's going to do it for the podcast, man. I just want to take time out to say thank you to all the listeners. If you're new to the podcast, like I stated earlier, I really, really appreciate you guys taking the time out to listen to this podcast. I hope you enjoyed yourself. You guys have ways to get a hold of me. I've already laid that out there on the table. With that being said, guys, I'm going to get out of here. I'll see you guys next week. Going to have another great show. This is Studio MacGyver. And you have been listening to Studio MacGyver's Dragon Ball and Video Game Podcast. See you next time.